Cache-maniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome to GeoGearHeads. This is episode 318, and we are going to talk about streaking. No, get your mind out of the gutter. We're not talking that kind of streaking. We are talking consecutive cache finds. I am Chris of the Northwest, along with our illustrious host, Daryl W4. Daryl, it looks a little different in your studio this evening.
Yeah, I've got a full house in the studio. I don't think you can fit any more people in this tiny little room, and even the camera can't fit everyone in. So,
Lean in, honey.
You know, it's going to be an interesting show to say the least, especially because Google doesn't want to really cooperate tonight. But yeah, this is
there are issues with Google.
There are, but this is Brian and Patty of Team LaRue. They're a local caching couple, as you can imagine, since they're in the studio with me, and they are on day number 2,589. So that's like 7.1 years of caching every day. So we want to find out more about how they make that happen.
That's like my one cache a day for the entire calendar, but in dog years.
Yeah, the last couple of years, I'm lucky to get a cache a day, which, I haven't been able to do. Average cache a day. Before we get into that, though, we do have some feedback. First comes from Wet Coaster, who wrote in about the last show. Plastics are already frozen. There are 5 known phases or states of matter: solids, liquids, gases, plasma, and Bose-Einstein condensates. Wow, that's easy to say.
That's a tongue twister.
The main difference in the structures of each state is in the density of the particles. Plasma does not occur naturally on Earth. Bose-Einstein condensates were first created in the lab in 1995. And he provided a link to States of Matter article. I believe what you guys were talking about was something called the glass transition temperature, TG, which is the point which an amorphous solid, such as a glass, polymers, tire rubber, or cotton candy, goes from being ductile to brittle. For most common materials, say Rutledge, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. This temperature is so high or so low that it's not easily observed. The TG of window glass is 564 degrees Celsius, and that of tire rubber is negative 72 degrees Celsius. And then he gives us an article, Why Plastics Get Brittle. Yes. I'm getting tongue-tied already.
I love Brickle.
Now, Chris, I missed that whole episode, but I did listen to it, and I thought you guys actually did say that was the TG.
Yes, we did talk about the glass transition temperature, or TG as it's known in the industry.
Right.
And, that even 3D printed plastics, or, the Tupperware you put out in the cold weather, you've all done it, right? Opened up a cold Tupperware and the lid's cracked on you. Oop, and you didn't do anything wrong. You weren't manhandling it. It's just that in those cold temperatures, that plastic becomes brittle and it will shatter, at a slightest touch. So even with 3D printed caches, you still hit this. Now,
absolutely.
I was under the impression that glass is a liquid. Even, at room temperature, it is slowly moving.
Yeah, I've heard that a few different times, but I think that it has been, in the way that it is manufactured now, it is a solid, because otherwise it would be unsuitable for like windshields. Like glass is not pure
there's
glass.
Multiple materials in a windshield, though.
Right, exactly.
But I'm in a 100-year-old house, and all my glass windows have ripples in them.
Ah, the float glass.
Yeah. So, because, it's a liquid, and over 100 years, it's moved enough that you can see slight ripples in it.
Well, let's move on to another email, which came from R. Reagan, and this can't wait for the randomized show because that's a couple of weeks away, and this is actually taking place like now through February 16th, and it's an article from The Drive that says widespread GPS jamming during war games in Western USA. So R. Reagan says this should add a whole new dimension to those attending the Yuma Mega event, which is, I think, this weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna hit them hard.
Yeah. So Nellis Air Force Base, which is just outside of Las Vegas, is running a series of war games known as Red Flag. And the Air Force is going to black out GPS over the Nevada Test and Training Range from the 26th of last month through the 16th of this month. So expect inconsistent GPS service, especially for aviation, is basically what they're telling us.
Yeah, so I've looked into this, living on the West Coast. It's the excuse why I can't go out and find a geocache. I simply can't do it. My GPS is untrustworthy. That's the reason why I can't find them.
Well, and why you can't get those Pokemon either.
Oh. So around Nellis Air Force Base is Red Flag, which is the Air Force's premier war games, right? This is the war games of the year. So they have a GPS jamming technology right there on Nellis, and it's like an inverted cone. So from Nellis going up and out, and the farther away you get, the bigger area it covers. And they're doing this so that the pilots will have to go old school because all these new planes require or utilize GPS technology. Even the weapons they fire use GPS technology to track and to know where they are and have some smarts to them. So they're blacking out the GPS signal in this area to cause an unusual condition for the pilots and let them have some real world training. However, it's also affecting commercial pilots, civilian pilots. They're going to have to use instrument flight rules to land aircraft.
Well, and as I understand, even a lot of the systems sync via the clock in the
Mhm.
GPS. So even if they don't use GPS, they can still be thrown off by the lack of a GPS signal. So it can be wide reaching, and that's one of the reasons why they need to do these games. Is everyone expects everything to work, and if someone goes and jams your GPS signal, it can have much broader consequences than you'd initially think.
Exactly. Exactly. And GPS signal is really quite weak when you look at it. For the distance it's going, it's not a huge power outlay to begin with, and the fact that it covers such a wide area down on Earth, it's a weak signal and it's easily jammed.
Well, let's move on to our guest tonight, and we're going to start with Wet Coaster's email because he asked a whole bunch of questions, and quite frankly, he's the only one who wrote in about the actual topic.
We
And
generated a whole lot of interest.
People don't care about it.
So thank you, Wet Coaster. So the first question, he says the obvious question would be why, but I won't ask that. But you know what? I will.
We're just kind of insane, I guess. It's something that we just get up and do. I mean, there's really no reason why other than because,
It's part of our routine now. And at
Right.
what point do you stop doing it when you get to a number like this? Like
10 million.
Find
them
more
all.
geocaches than have ever been hidden.
Well, luckily we've got so many placers out here. We can go, one a day for forever now. I mean, there's thousands in our local area, so doing a one a day is really not a hard thing to do because we've got such great cache owners out there.
Well, and to that point, we have the New Year's Day event every year,
Right.
and they're doing enough caches from that event that you'd have one every day.
Yeah. What did you do? 400 and some?
it was almost 500 this year, right?
Yeah, it was 489, I think, but that included the event. So like
True.
488
Yeah.
new caches.
That's awesome. We're
And all within driving range of
my
Sure.
work.
But-
cache a day.
But it is a broad range because it goes almost down to the Michigan-Ohio border. I think actually they had some that were into Toledo this year.
Oh.
And then they go all the way up to like Port Huron. So it's a broad range. It's not like it's all that quick.
Sure, but I'm still working on the 2015s, so not a problem. I think I've got plenty to keep me occupied.
So we definitely appreciate all the cashers who place caches, especially the Happy New Year event. That's
Oh,
always a good
sure,
one for
sure.
for us to have those caches available.
Well,
Agreed.
that, if they're putting out more caches in one day than you can find in a year, that
Right.
really does make it sustainable, doesn't it?
It really does, and that's the whole you know, I don't know, the reason we can do this is because of the placers out there, and like Glen Six has got 2,500 plus caches that he's placed, and I've only scratched the surface on those, and um, just our local guys that go out every couple weeks and check on their caches and work them. They're
Keep them well
fantastic.
maintained,
Yeah.
and yeah, we're very fortunate in
Exactly.
Oakland County, especially.
Wow, that's impressive.
Thanks.
So, okay, the next question, how far do you have to travel from your home to get your daily find? And I think we've touched on this, but you know, um, how far are you traveling on a daily basis? You're not going hundreds of miles.
Oh, excuse me. I work about 30 miles from my house. So in that range, there are literally, thousands, a couple thousand caches that are available to me. And I have multiple routes that I can take. So from, I can just, pop off, go one road and hit, a couple hundred if I wanted to, but I limit myself to the one and then come home. But it's a nice, easy decompression job drive from my job. So going and grabbing a cache and you know going home a way that takes me 45 minutes. It's awesome.
So you've been doing this for over 7 years. Obviously, weather isn't a huge factor. I think you've experienced it all by now, right?
I have
All weather types.
yeah, it's it's Michigan and it's always Michigan outside. So when whenever we're whenever we go out, it's just what it is. So we want to do a cache, we go and do a cache, and it doesn't matter if it's uh, gale force, rainstorm, or if it's minus 20 degrees outside. We know we have to do it, and where I work, I have to go into work every day. So it's not like I can just not do it. So I have to come home. I have to might as well do a cache, right?
There you go. Yes, I grew up in around Toledo, and the saying was, if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes, it'll change.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So
Though this year it's been wait 15 minutes and it gets worse.
Right.
But it's
Older.
colder,
It
snowier.
does change. Exactly. It still change.
How I'm trying to think how I would say this. Do you get excited when somebody publishes a cache near you? Maybe, less than a 10, 20, 30-minute drive?
I mean, who doesn't? It's like yeah, everybody has the FTF fever. It's as soon as it dings on your phone, you're like, oh, should I go? Could I do this now? Oh, I already grabbed the cache. So yeah, so I don't generally run out for an FTF unless it's early in the morning on Saturday or something, and I'll run and go do it. But there've been times where I've been sitting in a meeting, twiddling my thumbs, waiting for the thing to be done, and ding, and I'm like, oh man, there's a new cache only 2 miles from where I'm sitting, and I have to wait for an hour while people drone on. So I'm waiting.
But
and
sometimes you
waiting.
get lucky, and
But sometimes I do. Yeah, that's true, and really ticks some people off that I can do that. But it's yeah, it's the same thing. Everybody's got the FTF fever. They really want to go and grab one, but we try to limit ourselves to just the one a day, and unless it's just far enough away where it doesn't affect our local area, we can just go and grab it. But we've gone 60 miles and gotten an FTF, so it's
Wow.
works out. That's luck. That's all.
that's
luck.
just luck.
Okay. Okay. So that's not a regular thing.
Don't
Okay.
wow that one. 'cause
Yeah,
that's-
that was
That's true. I've been
completely
on
unplanned.
vacation in California and got an FTF. So,
right.
Right.
and it wasn't because it was, I was hunting for it and I didn't have anything pop up. I looked at it and go, well, that one wasn't there yesterday.
Well,
Okay. So you just mentioned that you limit yourself to one a day.
right.
When you go on trips, are you
Well,
planning to go somewhere that you haven't been before in order to find more caches? Do you get more than one a day when you leave the area?
well, when we go on vacation, when we go on a trip, it's usually for something else. We don't generally go on a geocaching trip, but when that's another story. But if we go on a trip, we're going to do that thing, and then we'll also grab a cache. And most of the time we'll limit ourselves to what's in the general area because we want to do the touristy things. You want to go for what you're doing. But if we go on to an event, a geocaching event, we will go and grab as many caches as we can because it's in an area that we don't normally visit. But even then, I think our most was like 60 in a day at Midwest GeoBash. Yeah.
On the weekends, we'll drive out to different places too, though. We'll go 50 miles from home, let's say, and then hit a pocket of caches and do more. So we don't necessarily limit ourselves to one on the weekend. If we can get out and get further away from home, we'll make a day out of it.
Yeah, I like to go and grab a cache and then get breakfast.
Yeah, get something good to eat.
Yeah, that's our impetus.
Nice. Well, the last question we have from Wet Coaster is: do you scout the hide location ahead of time, days before you log it, and then return on the day to sign the log and record the find?
No, we really, it's all spur of the moment because I leave my office and I grab my GPS and I say, okay, I'm going to go this way, and then there's a cache, I grab it. I never really, scout any out. Right? If I'm near it, I'll grab it and get it done. But I don't ever leave a cache behind.
No cache.
We never pre-sign or anything like that.
Pre-sign, yeah. No, we do it all. It's all like we grab cache, sign the cache, and feed out.
So those Glen 6 Mott power trails for biking are probably interesting for you.
We do, during the week, I'll do the ones on the ends. Like I'll grab one that's on at a crossroads kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. But when we go out, we'll go hiking. Do a little stretch of the Mott, and we'll go and we'll do like every other one going out, and then all the other ones coming back. So we'll grab like 10, but we'll do 5 going, west, and then, the other 5 coming back east. So,
right. And for anyone who doesn't know what Mott is, which is probably most of our listeners, it's the Macomb Orchard Trail, which is a rail trail. And what he's done is set up a power trail. So it's your minimum distance allowed. In some cases, it's more than the 1/10 of a mile because there's other caches in the area. But he tries to pack as many caches as he can into it so that you have a nice biking power trail.
We have quite a few nice biking power trails in the area. So
we've got the Mott,
the Pollyann, yeah,
Mott, Pat. What's the other one? I don't even know the names.
Yeah, the CRT doesn't have it yet, I don't think.
No,
but I
bet it will soon.
There are a few.
Yeah, there's a few on the CRT, but it's not a power trail yet. Right. And then there's the Outer Drive series, which is a power trail for your traditional. But you mentioned that you get like 60 or so in a day. What is your maximum finds in a day?
61 or 2 or something like that. It's really, relatively low for for all the people we know. We've got 20,000 caches, or but yeah, we do. I think that was the most, and that was hot July day. We just walked it out and do one. But yeah, that's the most.
Nice. Now, in 7 years, I can't believe I'm saying that. 7 years of geocaching everywhere. There has to be at least once that you've come close to breaking that streak for one reason or another.
No, actually,
no,
we've never. We never even come close to not doing it.
I think you've
blizzard,
been sick.
Flood. You're
there
better.
Was one day that you were very, very sick,
right?
And it was a blizzard too, and so off I went by myself, and got the cache for that day. That was it.
But yeah,
that was early on too.
Luckily, I've been pretty healthy, so that's not been a problem. And where I work, I have to. I go to work every day. There's no sick days. Well, you can take a sick day, but I just don't have any days that I really take off. And if I do take it off, I'm geocaching. So
nice. Now, in all this, do you hide geocaches as well?
We're horrible at hiding.
We have hidden a few, but
we've hidden 8 total. We have 2 that are still active, and we have one that's in our backyard. It's our backyard butts up to a state park, so we place a cache there, and and people come and find it every once in a while. That one I rotate through every year. I get a new one and place it in the same spot. Our local guys love it because they know they can come and grab it.
However, we are placing caches this summer.
Yes, you tell me I'm going to place caches.
Now we have to.
It's been recorded on a
That's
podcast,
right.
therefore it has to happen.
We have evidence.
That's great.
I've got a hider or a finder out here who's on a streak nowhere near yours. Don't get me wrong, but they won't count an event as a cache hide. Do you count events as your cache find of the day?
What we do is when we go to an event, we also go and find a cache. But the rules of the game are pretty broad. So it's whatever gets you a smiley gets you a smiley. I mean, if it's an event, if it's a virtual, if it's how we play the game is, we try to do a legitimate cache according to ground speed. So yeah, we would count an event if we did that, but we also get, we go to an event and we also do a cache.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that we don't.
I consider an event a smiley. That's a legitimate find.
A smiley's a smiley, right? Your streak is still going to be there.
Right.
So,
are there certain types of caches you look for? I mean, would you consider doing a multi-cache or an earth cache, or do you look for something quick and easy, typically during the weekdays when you're working, something you can do a little harder on the weekends?
It really varies. I'll do puzzles. Like during my lunch break, I'll work through a puzzle, and I'll go and find that cache that I worked through the puzzle that day. I'll do multis. Honestly, I'll do whatever caches that come across. When I'm driving, I'm not really that choosy. I'll take whatever. It's all good.
Yeah.
But I'm also caching in work clothes, so nice shoes and nice pants, and I've climbed trees to get those and
walked through a swamp in your work shoes and whatever the cache for that day is, you're just gonna
off a log right into the middle of the river and done it all.
I bet that gets you some looks at work.
Yeah, I try not to do it during work because I did one time. There's this little pond in Sterling Heights, near where I work, and so I was going to get this cache that was like half in the water, half out of the water, and I slipped in, and one leg went all the way into the muck, and so one pant leg that was like completely.
And then
covered.
You went back to work.
I went back to work. I'm a dedicated employee. So.
Nice. So geocaching, finding a geocache every day has become expensive just in wear and tear on your work clothes.
Very true.
The replacement of work shoes.
Work shoes. It seems like too often I'm buying new work shoes.
That's all right. He knows the person who does his laundry, so
exactly.
That's all right.
Nice.
We get you ready for the next day's adventure.
That's right.
Well, let's take a look at recommendations maybe for anyone who's looking to get into this. Is there anything that you would right off the bat warn people not to do?
Don't wait till the very last minute of the day to get it done. That's try to give yourself enough time to do what you need to do, because at the end of the day, the streak is nothing. Being present in your life is good. But if you're going to do a streak, don't put it off to the last second.
Well, and you typically, like if we know it's going to be a busy afternoon or busy evening, you'll just get your cache before work. Right. So that happens a lot. And we never cache past like usually, well, for our cache a day, past like dinner time. Like if it's got to be found by dinner time.
Oh, wow.
That way we're not panicking at night trying to find that cache or whatever. So we've never had a panic moment because you're always just kind of hitting them as you come home. So.
And that goes back to there's so many around us.
Right.
Well, and to that point, one of the things we keep hearing from everyone is keep a few caches close to home available so that if you have to find one on that day, and this goes for people in general who are looking for souvenirs or whatever, make sure that you have a cache to satisfy it when you can't necessarily go and find a cache that day.
Sure.
And those quick, easy parking grabs. Have you guys done any of that?
Well, we have quite a few that are around us now, excuse me, that are brand new ones, but we ate through our local ones mistakenly um in the early part of our streak. We really killed off our entire local area, and so that was hard because then we were driving, a little bit further on the weekends, but we found that on the weekend, getting further away, it was nice. It was just, we could make a little trip out of it. But yeah, on those days where we've had some serious snowstorms, having those local ones not be there, that was really rough. So we ended up having to go like further out or cache into
Yeah.
areas we don't normally cache into.
We learned our lesson.
Yeah,
Now we've got a couple just in case.
drove 20 miles into Lapeer to have 5 DNFs and then finally get one in our just completely yeah, we were completely covered with snow. It was bad.
How often does that happen where you run into those trips where the caches that you expected to be able to get were not accessible?
That's every day. Every day. I think I try for, probably on a daily basis, like 3 caches are not going to be there. I can pretty much guarantee that it's going to be a DNF, and it's just because some of the caches are placed in really conspicuous areas, so it's really hard to keep it from not being found by someone other than a geocacher. But
Or you'll get there and there'll be people nearby,
right.
and so you can't
and that
get out and try to find it because you don't want to.
right, that probably happens more often.
Right.
I'll end up having to do a drive by and then go find something else. Like today, I drove past 3 caches to get to one, and it was a little bit outside of my normal drive home, but it was still doable. But yeah, DNFs, love them.
Nice. In the chat, Bounce says, on my one day streak, it'll probably be over tomorrow.
You got to start somewhere. Everybody starts someplace.
I'm right there with you, Bounce. I don't do that streaking well. I 4 or 5 days and then something comes up and.
Well, my streak was when we had that August 30 days or whatever. I went and did the 31 days of August. I went and did that, kept going, and then I said, okay, I want to stop this at 123 because I'm getting really tired of having to find a cache.
And you liked the number 1, 2, 3.
Well, and I liked 1, 2, 3.
You couldn't go to 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, and I ended up going to 1, 2, 3, 4 because I wasn't paying attention and found a cache.
That's her favorite number is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, that's what I have as my longest streak is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Nice.
That's a great.
Nice.
See, that's a perfect number to stop on.
Yeah.
Why didn't we do that?
Well, you could do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh.
Actually, no, you can't do that anymore. You're past it. So you'd have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No, I don't know. Too much. That's math.
We're just not going to stop, so it's fine.
We'll keep on going until one of us.
Let's see. Yeah, quick math says that would be something like another 40 years.
Let's see if geocaching is still around in 40 years.
Yeah, who knows?
Right.
So let's see. We've got some people in the chat that are really pulling in some good info. So let's start with Yellow Jeeper Man.
Hey.
Who's done 365 days of caching and living in a relatively remote area. Sometimes I would find 2 easy ones near each other and grab one around 11:50 p.m. and the other at 12:05 a.m.
We've never done that.
Never done that.
We really don't do a whole lot of night caching anyways, but we've never done across the time frame thing.
But we're not in a circumstance like that either. No. So I think that you have to do what's right for you in whatever circumstance you're in. And
that's the thing. I mean, if there was a time when we had to go back and adjust our fines because the time clock was off on the server on geocaching.com, so it ended up showing it that we were 3 hours wrong for the time that we had found it. So we ended up having to adjust that. But I could see that, if you're doing that close and working a nighttime
for sure.
cache, hey, I mean, whatever worked for you.
Well, that would be what you want to do for the New Year's Eve to New Year's Day events, because frequently they have those kind of things set up.
That's true. We did that at one event, the pre-event.
Right.
And but we also found a cache that day too. So I don't know. Whatever works for you, and it's if it gets a smiley and it's legit, hey, it's all good.
Nice.
And for Yellow Jeeperman, that's not a problem at all. He's a good guy.
Actually, good plan.
Paula says, I made it to 550 days and forced myself to stop. I was chatting with Mrs. Yellow Jeeper Man, and she could talk me out of anything.
We always need friends like that, right?
That's right.
Mhm.
Hi, Paula.
Nice. Wet Coaster has made it all the way to 60 days. That's pretty good.
That's great.
You know, we started at 1, so
That's right. 1 became 2,
Oh.
2 became 3.
so you know, it's like how it goes.
Well, and for most people, it seems like that first 30 days is the hardest part. Then it's great for about 80, 90 days. And that's when the fatigue sets in, or you start getting the rarity of finds.
Yep.
And it's getting harder and harder. So, you know, the longer you go, the easier I think it gets.
I think it's just part of your routine.
Right.
Like every night, it's, oh, what cache did you find today, or whatever, we talk about it. So,
Well, you know, plus the way we cache low numbers anyways. So doing 1 really wasn't that big of a stretch from how we were already, you know, caching. We would cache on the weekends with our daughter, and we would get, you know, like 1, 2, whatever. We do like 3 in a week. That was a big deal, you know, and so you know, doing the 1 a day, or you know, just caching and going and finding 1. That was how we started playing it. So it wasn't a big deal. But and when we started in 2004, I did 100 in the first month, and we were done. There was nothing else left
right.
in our area. So we had to wait another 6 months before people started populating the area again. So, but yeah, it's you know, we started playing the game doing low numbers, and there, a lot of people who cache for you know, a lot of they grab a lot of caches and do the higher numbers. So I could see how that would be a harder transition to go to only get 1 a day.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a plan that you have for determining which caches you're going to be finding on that daily basis?
You know, there really isn't. I just a lot of it depends on traffic when I leave work. So if I see that one of the roads is too busy, I'll go to another road, and then I'll say, okay, I'm, you know, far enough away from work where I can, you know, hit the button to see what caches are available, and I just go for 1, and then I'll, like I said before, I drive by and see if it's doable, and go and try and do it. I generally make the mistake of not looking at the difficulty in terrain until it's too late. But I've also been known to turn a 1-1 into a 5-5. So it's all relative at that point.
And so it sounds like you're doing all of this by the phone, and through the API, you're not doing any pocket queries or anything like that. It's just go into the area, hit the refresh caches, and find the ones you're looking for.
I do. I use the phone. I use the API for the most part. But one of the problems that I've had in the past is I get into an area where there's no coverage. So I do run a pocket query for my within 20 miles of my office, and then within 20 miles of my home. And if I find that I don't have a good reception and can't use the API, I'll use my pocket query. But those are usually about a week old, anyways. But generally can find a cache that way.
And I think, if I remember, you're actually using Cachly, correct?
I use Cachly. I used to use the good version of Groundspeak's app, and I loved the old one, and it was fantastic. But they changed it, and it made it not as user friendly to me. Now they didn't ask for my user experience in determining their new the new apps, and that's fine. You know, they did good work, and it's a good app for new people coming in. But I'm an old guy. I was set in my ways and using the old thing. But Cachly is a fantastic app, and there's you know, different subtleties and some really fantastic, you know, parts of it that really fit into the way I cache, and into my mindset, and so it's a great program. And if the guys at Cachly are listening, I would really love to have one of your coins. So keep
Hook us
that
up,
in mind.
Cashley.
Nick, I know you're listening, so. But you, I'm sure, have a much easier time logging than if it's like a power trail, because it's one cache or two caches or three caches a day. Are you still doing any templating for that? And if so, how?
I do. I have a basic page, because I'm one of those lazy guys who really loves to use a template for anything I do. So I in my response or my log, it's boilerplate, and I'll throw, if something is very interesting, I'll change it up a little bit, but I use one of Cashley's templates, and it's a template that I created into Cashley, and it works fantastic for me, and it works even when we're doing multiples. It will, but I'll still log it as I'm going, so I don't have to sit back and run a thing through GSAC and publish them all.
That's one thing. We log as we go, so we never have that backlog at the end of the day. Even with that 60-day that we did, we were logging them as we went from one cache to the other. So
so you're doing send now. You're not doing send at the end of the day or anything. Just you do your log right at the cache and send it.
I've got 500 feet on those power trails.
That's right.
To log it and
send.
And I also I take a picture. Every cache that I do, I take a picture of it. Usually I try to make it a little better than, if it's just like a paint by number, container. I try to make it a little bit nice, because I've got a little art side of me that likes to have nice pictures. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I take pictures of all my caches, and some of my followers on Instagram use my photos when they're stuck, and so I really I like that part of it. That's my real log. I mean, the log that goes on geocaching.com is pretty standard and boilerplate, but my real log is the one that goes on Instagram, and it's usually photo.
Interesting.
And that's a photo a day on Instagram,
yeah.
But you never post what cache it is. You never link it to it. They have to do some digging around if they want to
really
figure that
do some
out.
research, or they call me.
I've poked you a few times because it's like, ooh, that's a cool cache. Where is that?
And I've a couple of people do the same thing, because some of the caches are in areas that the cache placer wanted to bring you to. So that's what I go to see, like the graffiti walls. I love graffiti walls, and so anytime I find a cache near a graffiti wall, that's part of my my Instagram blog. So
nice. I happen to be looking at your geocaching.com stats page, and I see for a couple of years you got, and then suddenly you just hit this really nice even slope up. Finding one cache a day makes a very nice, about a 30-degree angle, I would say.
It's funny, because I don't look at my stats page very often, and I don't know how many caches I found. I know it's over 5,000, but we've been caching since
5,374 or thereabouts. Depends if you've logged today already.
Yeah, we did 5,374.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I just know my day, but and the only reason I know my day is because I have a cheat sheet on my phone that tells me the date and the number of days that I found. But it's really hard to keep that all straight without that. It was easy when I only was counting to 30. But
after that, had to have your cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, of course, when the show notes, we'll link to the Instagram account. So if anyone wants to follow Brian who isn't already, they'll have that. And we were commenting earlier that you have all the extra finds, because occasionally you do some giveaways on there, or extra followers.
Extra followers. Yeah, every once in a while, because I have a thing for path tags and X tags, and so I create them, and I do a little giveaways. Somebody just, all you have to do really is follow me and like the image or whatever, and I pick at random 3 people usually, sometimes more, but I give away path tags.
Who doesn't like a freebie?
Yeah, freebies are fun.
You always like getting free stuff.
I've got a bunch of free stuff for you, Daryl. So.
Oh, cool.
Hooking you up.
No, I'm really excited.
Okay.
Right,
one more question on cache types. What about lab caches? Do you count that as a daily find?
I do not.
You're at an event.
I at the event, the lab caches, I'll do the lab caches because they're, sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're interesting, and I do them because there aren't very many of them. Like I think Midwest Geocache had 20, I think last time, and we grabbed all those. But I do not count them because what is it? Project GC. They don't count them
as an official smiley.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not why. I mean, we don't have very many of them, and usually when I've done a lab cache, it's been because we've also had other caches that day.
Okay, I had to ask.
Sure.
All right. One announcement, and then maybe while I'm doing that, if there's any final thoughts, kind of figure those out.
Yeah.
But for anyone who's an Android user, TB Scan is coming to Android. So I have played with the beta of that on the 5X. I have not played with the most recent beta to know how well it works, because the first beta I had, I wasn't getting it to scan anything.
Oh,
works great on the iPhone.
Yeah, the iPhone, it's a great app, and I'm looking forward to it coming to Android. I've got a number of people excited about it, but we'll be getting some questions answered from its developer in the next couple of weeks for the randomized show, which is only a couple of weeks away. So if you guys have any questions that you want us to pose to, I can't remember his name. I think it's Nick again, but I think because I've got Cashley on the brain, and I'm thinking Nick. But if you have any
Just
questions, make sure to get those in ASAP. But of course, we do have the randomized show coming up in a couple of weeks, and we always have a lot of great topics on those shows. So it's GeoGearHeads at Cachemaniacs.com. All right. So any closing thoughts?
Yes, we need to thank the other streakers.
There's
that
quite
push
a
us along.
Few people have really spurred us on, and that we're not really we're like friendly competitors. And Ray Rowney, Ray Quicks, been neck and neck with him for a while. Stefan, June 17, right there with him for quite a few times. I mean, for like up in, I think he's like 2,500 or something. He stopped, and then I think that's the thing. We're not competing with them, but it's kind of
Homebrew really set
like
the goal for everyone in the state of Michigan, I think. So so we want to thank him for setting that for us.
And then the top 3 spots, the Team Desert Eagle family on the west side of Michigan, we're like behind them by about a year. I think we're a year behind them, but they're we're number 4 in Michigan, and they're the top 3 spots.
Yeah. What are we, 26 in the US and 56 in the world?
Yeah. Woo-hoo.
Moving on up.
That's the only numbers we know.
Well, I don't recommend that if you're on some of these like island nations that you do it, because like what was it? Puerto Rico, I think. Only has like about 50 or 60 caches. So
right.
That doesn't work so well.
No cruises for us.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
No cruising vacations.
We had I forget who it was, but somebody we helped them plan their cruise finds while they were on the cruise, because they didn't want to spend the money on the for the
data
connection.
Oh, I don't blame them there.
Yeah.
So how did you get them the information? By phone?
How did we do that? I think they were on
I think it was on phone, by phone.
It must have been by phone.
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting.
Bounce would like to know if you're coming to Seattle for GeoCoin Fest.
Oh,
I don't think so.
There are caches out here. Oh, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Bryce cashed in quite a bit in Seattle.
Yeah, we came out.
Well, not quite a bit, but
I came out for Geo Woodstock when it was in Carlton.
Yep.
And I drove down. Yeah, I flew in on the Friday night, drove down to Portland to do the first cache, and then drove back to Seattle to do the event. Spent the day at the event, and then drove back to the airport and flew out the Saturday night to get.
Oh, so you didn't do that Lost and Found event?
Nope. Yeah,
no.
I didn't do, I'm kicking myself about a bunch of stuff out there. So I do want to go back to do the trifecta. But that's we'll see how that goes
for another time.
We have a daughter in college.
Right.
We're concentrating on what we got right now. So.
Yeah.
Are you going to be doing Geo Woodstock, since that could be done as a day drive?
We are. We're
for sure
to Woodstock because it's a giga. So
you're going to drive down that morning,
right.
check in, and then drive back.
We'll
We'll
probably
hang
spend
out.
the day.
We'll hang out. It's a 5-hour trip, right? It's not that bad.
Yeah, I think it
Give
was
or take.
about 5 and change to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
we
be
can do
there.
Yeah, so at this point, I think what I'm planning on is the Friday night and Saturday night down there, and that's it.
I think we're gonna go down Saturday morning, possibly early.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It'll be
But-
fun. We're excited about the Giga.
Yeah, that's always
Yes,
good.
me too. And we're going to have them on the show March 1st.
Super.
And Chris, I'm going to ask you to tell us about that in just a moment. But before we do that, thank you both for coming out
Thank you
here
for
and
having us.
enjoying the lovely weather that we're having, because it went from mid 40s today to what is it, like
16 or something.
it's now 13 degrees out there.
Michigan.
Good thing we got our cash.
So
And that's not
nice and
Celsius.
icy. No, that is
No.
not Celsius. Yes, we went from 15, 20 degrees above freezing to now 20 degrees below freezing.
That's right. That's about right.
Michigan.
Seems about right.
Nice. Well, Daryl, you stole the lead, stole my thunder, but there are some great upcoming shows. Next week, February 8th, we're going to be talking about puzzles with Jennifer of Team AJK. And we're going to be talking about coordinate checkers as well. You're going to want to tune in for that. February 25th, that's a day after Valentine's Day, folks. And I'm talking to the men here. Don't wait until the 13th. Get something for your special person before then, okay? February 15th, we're doing that randomized show that we had talked about earlier. February 22nd is the Mega Giga event with Heather Feather from geocaching.com. And March 1st is we're talking about Geo Woodstock 2018 with the board members who are putting on Geo Woodstock 2018.
Check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads at cachemaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Offenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2018 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cachemaniacs.